former Vice President Mike Pence went on CNN and did a town hall with Jake Tapper, and he took like a bunch of questions from the audience, and he tells all here about former President Trump and about January 6th, and I wanted to share some of this with you. So first, I want to start with he's asked if he'll support Trump in 2024, and we'll break down his answer.
First, I have to ask you, of course, about the elephant in the room, which is your former boss, Donald Trump, just announced that he's running for president. Will you support him?
Well, it's great to be here at CNN, Jake.
Thank you.
It really is. Thank you for bringing together so many great Americans.
He's such like a 1980s, 1990s style politician. The fact that he like deflected immediately is like classic old school politician.
Including, I heard some people from my home state.
A lot of them.
Hoosiers
in the house.
And let me just say that it was a great honor for me to be a part of the Trump-Pence administration. And in 4 short years, we rebuilt our military, we revived our economy, we unleashed American energy, we appointed conservatives to our courts at every level. But in the end, our administration did not end well. And I write about that in my book. But as I've traveled across the country over the last year and a half, one thing I've heard over and over again, whether it's at the grocery store in Indiana or traveling around the country, is people want us to get back to the policies of the Trump-Pence administration. They want to see America strong and prosperous and advancing the policies that we advanced that left America more secure and 7 million American jobs created.
Okay, fact check. They actually lost 2.9 million jobs under the Trump administration. So I don't know where he got that from. I don't know how he skewed the numbers. But of course, I even doubt the claim of like people come up to me in the gas station and they say, bro, we got to go back to what you guys were doing. I do not believe that for a second.
But the other thing that I've heard consistently is that the American people are looking for new leadership that will unite our country around our highest ideals. Leadership.
Okay, but you wouldn't be part of new leadership either. You were the vice president under Trump. That's not new.
That will reflect the civility and respect that most Americans have for one another. Once you get out of politics, you learn pretty quickly that while our politics is very divided, the American people actually get along pretty well every day. And treat each other with kindness and with decency and with respect. And so I think in the days ahead, whatever role I and my family play in the Republican Party, whether it's as a candidate or simply a part of the cause, I think we'll have better choices than my old running mate. I think America longs to go back to the policies that were working for the American people, but I think it's time for new leadership.
So he's basically soft-pedaling it. Like, yeah, we need to go back to our policies and stuff, bro. We did a great job. We did an amazing job. But, it's time for new leadership. So not him, but let's do the same policies that we had under him. I don't know, man. Your biggest legislative accomplishment was a tax cut where 83% of the benefits went to the top 1%. So that doesn't sound too appealing to me. All right, I got more for you here.
We're talking about January 6th. I do want to take you back to that day. Take a look at the video over here. That, of course, was the news hanging outside the Capitol that day, and rioters were calling for your execution, chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." Almost 2 years later, is it still tough to... There's some of the video of the Hang Mike Pence. 2 years later, is it still...
It's savage to show him this video. Holy shit.
tough to see that and hear that?
Jake, it saddens me. But that day it angered me. I must tell you, when the Secret Service took us down to the loading dock, accompanied by my wife and my daughter Charlotte and our Secret Service detail, I was determined to stay at my post. I told the Secret Service that I was not leaving the Capitol. I didn't want to give those people the sight of a 16-car motorcade speeding away from the Capitol that day.
Okay, I don't believe him. I think the reason why he refused to go with the Secret Service is because he was afraid the Secret Service was maybe going to, take care of him for Trump. Like, he didn't trust the Secret Service for him to be safe with the Secret Service. I think that's why. I don't think it's like, I wasn't going to show them me running away.
But frankly, when I saw those images, and when I read a tweet that President Trump issued saying that I lacked courage in that moment, it angered me greatly. But to be honest with you, I didn't have time for it. The President had decided in that moment to be a part of the problem. I decided and was determined to be part of the solution. And so we essentially set that aside. I collected the Republican and Democrat leadership of the House and Senate on a conference call, and we began to work the problem. They tasked me to reach out to leadership at the Pentagon, to leadership at the Justice Department, to surge additional resources there. And thanks to the courage of those amazing Capitol Hill police officers and federal law enforcement, we quelled the violence. We reconvened the Congress the very same day. And I'll always believe that because of their courage and valor, a day of tragedy became a triumph of freedom. We demonstrated to the American people and to the world the strength of our institutions, the resilience of our democracy. But those memories, those images will always be with me.
So you just said that the president in that moment decided to be part of the problem. And I have to say, as somebody that had been reporting on it for the months leading up to January 6th, I don't think anything happened in that moment that was part of the problem. President Trump had been campaigning in favor of the overturning of the election for months and months and months. It wasn't in that moment, and he wasn't part of the problem. He was the problem.
Well, look, the people that rioted at the Capitol are responsible for what they did. And as I said that day, and I believed every day since, those people should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. When I saw the images of people smashing windows, ransacking offices, and creating the mayhem that ultimately cost lives, I was filled with a simmering indignation. I'd served in the Congress for 12 years. I dreamed from the time I was a little boy, as I wrote in my book, about someday representing my hometown in Congress, and to see what was happening there. The first time since 1814 at our Capitol building, I just found myself thinking, not this, not here, not in America. And I hear you loud and clear. Look, in the weeks after the election, I had told the president that after all the legal challenges would play out, which the campaign had every right to bring.
Sure.
I mean, there were, Jake, voting irregularities in a number of states where election...
See, he's trying to do the Weasley, like, I'm going to be like a centrist on election denialism and say, look, I agree with Trump on everything. The one thing where we're a little off is that obviously I wouldn't have tried to actually overthrow the result of the election. I don't know if this is the right path for a guy like Pence. I mean, I don't think he has much of a chance in the Republican primary, which he almost certainly is going to run in, but this isn't... I mean, there's got to be some people making the full-throated counter-argument to Trump, right? Not splitting the difference.
Laws had been changed by either executive action or by the courts. There was never evidence of widespread fraud. I don't believe fraud changed the outcome of the election, but the president and the campaign had every right to have those examined in court. But I told the president that once those legal challenges played out, he should simply accept the outcome of the election and move on. But he was hearing different voices. And frankly, there were some legal experts that were allowed on the White House grounds that should have never been let through the gate.
Yeah, you're talking about Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani. I want to come back to that in a second, but I do want to show this moment because it was so important and so heartbreaking. This is inside the Capitol. This is video of the Secret Service trying to get you and your wife Karen and your daughter Charlotte to safety. As rioters came within 40 feet of you, we found out later, your family's lives were at risk. Not just yours, although that would be tragic, but your wife's and your daughter's. And I was worried for you that day, sir, covering this. I was worried for your wife. I was worried for your daughter. I'm relieved that nobody was harmed. If I were you, I would still be livid with Donald Trump. I would be so furious. And I know you're a measured man. But are you still angry?
Well, I must tell you, the president's words and tweet that day were reckless. They endangered my family and all the people at the Capitol.
You know, maybe I'm being a little bit of a nitpicky asshole here, but like, it's just so hard to listen and absorb the points he makes because he sounds like a fucking robot. He sounds like if you punched into some AI system, give me a standard politician, they would sound like Mike Pence. Like, he's asking you about you and your wife being in danger. And he's like, President's actions were reckless. And I did not like that one bit. But he's saying it in such like a calculated way. He's like a politician from a different era, man. I mean, I just don't think this stuff lands in the way that a lot of the new era politicians, the way they talk, the way that lands.
And I was angry. But you know, my Christian faith tells me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And in the Christian faith, forgiveness is not optional. We literally pray in the Lord's Prayer to forgive those who trespass against us. And
okay, forgiveness is not optional. You have to forgive, man. You have to forgive. Okay, so do you forgive the rioters after the George Floyd killing? Do you forgive them? Are you against the death penalty? Do you want to forgive people who are on death row. I mean, I could come up with like 100 different examples where he wouldn't say forgive, but now when it comes to your boss trying to kill you, all of a sudden it's like, bro, I gotta forgive, I'm a Christian.
In the days that followed, when the president asked to meet with me after he'd made the right statements to the country, he'd committed to a peaceful transfer of power, he'd condemned the people that rioted at the Capitol, we met, we sat down. And I prayed for God's grace to meet that moment in that spirit, and it wasn't easy. And to be honest with you, I'm as human as the next guy. And I still pray for the president. And I pray for the grace to forgive him and all those responsible for that tragic day. But I truly do believe that we live in a time when the American people ought to be searching our hearts and having more grace toward one another.
Okay, wait, he didn't say what happened in the meeting with Trump afterwards. What happened? My guess is he was fucking throwing verbal haymakers at your face, and you were like being cuckish, like, oh, I'm sorry, sir, but I had to listen to the experts who said I had to give the election over to Joe Biden, bro. I'm sorry, man. He's just like glossing over probably the most important part, which is like, what was Trump saying in the first meeting afterwards, and what did you say?
I mean, it seems like our country is more divided now than ever before. Even broadcast networks seem to be perceived to be divided along partisan lines, which is why I'm grateful for the opportunity to be on CNN today. I just think if all of us can be more forgiving to one another, we'll have unity in this country more than we've had in recent years, and with that unity, we'll meet the challenges that America faces in the balance of this new century.
All right, so he ends with just like a classic politician stump speech. Look, I mean, there's no denying that Mike Pence on that day was able to find a single shred of integrity and do the right thing and prevent us from getting into a worse constitutional crisis. But it is kind of amazing watching him afterwards basically try to say, look, me and Trump, bro, we agree on everything. We agree on the policies. I'm so proud of our administration. But, like, you know, look, were there irregularities in the election? Yeah, but we looked over it and whatnot, and I definitely wouldn't have overthrown it. There was no widespread election fraud, bro. So, like, I'm just like Trump, except more robotic and standard politician-y. And our one disagreement is I wouldn't have overthrown the election. It's just, I don't know how he's deluded himself into thinking he would have a chance running in the next primary. I really don't understand that. It's kind of amazing, isn't it? But it is true, and we've talked about this previously, he truly is a super-duper religious dude. Like, he's a fundamentalist. And I think he might think that God wants him to be president. You know? Trump used to make fun of him all the time. This was before they, like, broke up. But Trump used to make fun of him in the White House all the time. And whenever somebody brought up gay people, he'd be like, yeah, you know, this guy Mike, he wants to kill all the gays. So, like, there's no doubt he has, like, next-level religiosity. So I think he thinks this is all part of the plan, and God wants him to be president. But, man, it's kind of sad watching a politician from, like, a previous era come out here and give standard banal talking points when being asked questions about, like, so when your family was about to get murked, what were you feeling? And he's like, you know, I think we need to come together. That's what I think. I believe unity is good. It's like, okay, man, come on now. But anyway, look, this is the most you're going to get out of Mike Pence in terms of talking about Trump, talking about January 6th. It ain't much, but this is what you get.